This video is about OET listening part C. If you have ever reached part C of the listening test and thought, wait, what exactly do they want from me? You are not alone. Part C is not about catching numbers or medical terms. It's about reading between lines, figuring out what the speaker thinks, feels, or intends. You will hear two long extracts around 5 minutes each and then answer 6 questions for each. The tricky part is the answers are never stated word for word. You will need to listen for attitude, opinion, purpose, and also the deeper meaning. So today, I'm giving you a full exam style 5 minute extract with 6 practice questions. We'll go through them step by step, and I'll break down the traps and the correct reasoning exactly how OET examiners think. Are you ready? Now let's see the golden rule. Stop listening for facts. This is not a memory game. What you should listen for is why is the speaker saying this? How do they feel about the issue? What's the bigger message? So, if you shift your brain into this mode, part C will feel much less scary. Trust me. Okay, before the audio, what you should do? First, you have to read the question. You get time to skim the questions and options before the recording starts. So use this time wisely. You have to look for keywords. For example, if the question asks about the speaker's attitude, you can underline words like concerned, optimistic, or cautious, just an example. And then you have to predict the context. You have to ask yourself who might be speaking? A doctor or a health expert? What could they be talking about? So, this prediction helps your brain active and be ready. And the third one is you have to watch out for distractors. Many options use words directly from the audio, but only one matches the meaning. So, you have to prepare yourself. Don't get tricked by word matching. Now, this one, what are the things that we have discussed so far is before the audio that you need to pay attention to. The real game begins when the audio is playing. Here is how you need to stay sharp during the recording. You have to listen for the gist first. Don't panic about every single word because part C is about overall meaning and attitude, not tiny details. You have to ask yourself what's the speaker's main point. And the next one is you have to focus on tone and attitude. Is the speaker sounding confident or doubtful or worried or excited? Many questions in Patsy are about feelings and opinions. So here, tone matters just as much as words. Remember that. And you have to note the transition words. Words like however, on the other hand, in contrast, importantly, often signal the answer. They show a change in idea or emphasis. So please make a note of it. The speaker might mention a word that you saw in the options, but the meaning could be opposite. For example, they may say, some people believe X, but in reality, Y is more effective. If you stop listening at X, then you will miss the real answer, which is Y. Got it? And keep eyes on the question. While listening, glance quickly back at the options. Try to match the meaning, not just the vocabulary. So, to recap, before the audio, you have to read the questions, try to predict the context, and beware of distractors. And during the audio, listen for the gist and focus on the tone. Try to catch the transition words and match meaning, not the words. And remember, you only hear it once, so you have to stay focused from start till the finish. No zoning out, no second chances. With practice and these strategies, you will turn Patsy from stressful to successful. Let's move on to our example here. I'm going to play an audio for you. Listen to it carefully, and then we'll move on to the questions.
Thank you for inviting me today. When we talk about aging, we often focus on decline, what people lose as they get older. Mobility, memory, eyesight, the conversation is nearly always about deterioration. But I want to shift that lens a little because the reality is far more nuanced. Many older adults maintain excellent health well into their 80s and 90s. In fact, the majority of age-related challenges we see in hospitals are not purely biological, but social in nature. Take falls, for example. A fall is rarely just about weaker muscles or slower reflexes. It might also be about poor lighting in the home, slippery flooring, or simply the absence of someone nearby to provide support. Yet our healthcare systems tend to treat falls as though they are entirely medical events, prescribing physiotherapy or medication while overlooking these environmental factors. Another example is medication use. Polypharmacy, taking 5 or more medicines daily, is extremely common among the elderly. Some of these drugs interact in unpredictable ways. But again, the problem is not simply the body's reaction. It is also about communication, multiple specialists prescribing without coordinating, patients not fully understanding instructions, and family members being left out of the loop. So when adverse reactions occur, we blame old age when, in fact, it is a systemic communication issue. Now, let's consider independence. Ask most older people what they fear most, and you might expect them to say dementia or cancer. But surveys consistently show the greater fear is dependency, the loss of being able to make their own choices, to cook their own meals, or even to manage their own finances. Unfortunately, we as professionals often focus on extending life rather than preserving autonomy. I have met countless patients who lived for years longer thanks to medical interventions, but who told me frankly that those years felt stripped of dignity because every decision was made for them. Of course, this does not mean abandoning treatment. It means reframing treatment goals. Instead of asking only, how do we add more years, we should also ask, how do we make the years meaningful? Sometimes that might mean fewer hospital visits and more time at home. Sometimes it might mean involving social workers and community groups just as much as prescribing tablets. I also want to address technology. There is growing enthusiasm for digital health, remote monitoring, health apps, even robotic assistants. These can be wonderful tools, but we must tread carefully. Technology can support independence, but it can also create isolation if it replaces human contact. For instance, if an app reminds an older person to take their pills but nobody actually visits them, then we've solved one problem while creating another, loneliness. So, my message is this: aging is not merely a biological journey, it is a social, emotional, and cultural one. If we focus only on the body, we miss the bigger picture.
Okay, now let's move on to the question. The first question is, what overall concern does the speaker raise about how healthcare system approach aging? I'll tell you the right option. The right option is option B. He repeatedly contrasts biological versus social or emotional. So, if you look at A, it is partly mentioned but not the main concern. And if you look at option C, that was never discussed. So, option B, they focus too narrowly on biological decline. That's the correct option. Okay. Next question. When discussing falls in older adults, what does the speaker suggest? Three options are given, and the right option is option B again, because he clearly highlights lighting, flooring, absence of support, environmental plus medical. So if you look at A is too narrow, and C, it contradicts his point. Okay, option B is the correct answer. And we'll move on to the next question. What criticism does the speaker make about medication use in the elderly? And the right option is option A. He says adverse reactions get blamed on old age, but the real cause is systemic miscommunication. So option A is the right answer. If you see option B, it's too extreme. He never said deliberately. And option C is wrong. He wanted families actually to be more involved, not less. Okay. The fourth question is, according to the speaker, what do older adults fear most? And I know this is an easy answer, everyone is aware of. Answer B, becoming dependent on others. So he cites surveys showing dependency, not disease, was the greatest fear, right? And if we move on to the fifth question, what concerns does the speaker express about digital health tools? The correct option is option B. He clearly wants about apps or robots replacing human contact. And when we see the option A, it was never discussed, and option C is also wrong. He did not question validation, but social effects. Got it? And the last question is, what best described the speaker's overall message? So this is an important question. The correct option is option A. Aging should be viewed as a multidimensional experience, not just biological decline. This is the essence of his conclusion, like dignity, meaning, connection. Got it? B is exactly what he criticizes, and C is an exaggeration. He said balance, not replacement. Okay, so that's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more OET tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.